Nope, actually.
Nope.
Yeah. Hey TYT, it's Nomiki Konst. I am in a car right now and I might lose you because we're in Puerto Rico and cell phone signal comes in and out regularly. We are driving. We were on our way with our friend Rafa, who's been taking us around all day. He's been great. A great tour guide, driver, just an overall translator, all things. I'll show you him in a second, but he's driving. We were on our way to a town called Loíza. What was it? Loíza, okay. Just want to make sure. Loíza, and it started to rain, pouring. And I got a flash flooding notice. And so we were trying to get to the village and the road started to flood up, and it was, you know, Ty's right next to me too. So, hi Ty.
I need more light than she did.
We were, it was a bit concerning to see that amount of water, right?
It was really, I think at one point, no, it was scary because we drove through a road that was by a river, and from the road, water's just pouring into the river, and it was getting pretty tall, and it just started raining. So I'm assuming by the end of the night, the entire road will be flooded.
Yeah.
So then we made a U-turn from there.
Yep.
Came this way, and all the lights, all the street lights are out. So traffic it's absurd, really. It's just huge lanes. Each lane going north, south, east, and west on the intersection has about 4 lanes each on each side, and there's no light, so people are just making decisions. It's not normally how we're used to in the mainland. If the light goes out, normally people just kind of regulate it themselves. People are stopped, almost treated like a stop sign.
Yeah.
Here it's a little.
It's hard when it's 4 lanes. I mean,
exactly.
We've seen it a bit in other parts where they treat it more like I was driving yesterday and we were treating it like a 4-way stop. But when it's 4 lanes of traffic and there's a highway that kind of like loops into
like right here.
where we are right now, we're literally going through. I'll show you guys in the next one. Yeah. And then the traffic backs up.
He didn't stop at all. Just want to point that out. He tried to kill his show.
No, stop it. He's a pro. He's so there's been a lot of traffic accidents, obviously, but the police officers are only regulating the traffic every once in a while. It's pouring outside. We were just in an area where there was a police officer in a car with the cars lit up, but for some strange reason they weren't in the middle of the intersection. So I'm gonna loop it around, and Rafa's driving, so I don't want to distract him too much because it is pouring, but I'm gonna ask him a few questions. Are you okay with that, Rafa?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay, this is our. Don't hurt his eyes, whatever. The light.
Is this messing with your eyes?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure. So Rafa, you drive. You're driving all around. Has it gotten better? I mean, are people getting a better sense of when to go, when to stop?
Well, no, especially when it gets raining like this, you know, and it's at night, and it's just crazy, you know. It's very hot. I just told you I made a decision that we should turn around.
Right.
I didn't feel safe enough, and there was a couple of intersections that we had to cross that were going to be very, very tough to cross. So it hasn't gotten any better. I mean, it could never get better if it wouldn't get power back on.
We're going through an intersection right now, and
Rafa, he's a pro. So he does it.
We made it.
He said no cop, no stop. Go ahead.
We made it.
No cop, no stop. So you made a decision. We buried the lead here that we are aborting this trip because for a lot of reasons. Tell us about Loíza, the town that we were going to.
Okay, the town that we were going to, Loíza, is one of the hardest towns with Maria, and it's notorious for getting flooded.
Sure, I can hear him.
So we were going into a town at night with lots of rain around us, and the possibilities of it being totally flooded are very high. So not knowing what we're going to encounter, I thought it was best that we try to do this during the daytime and get some news from Loíza to see what's going on. If it's flooded, if it's not flooded, maybe try to do it during the daytime.
At the same time, there's very little. We just got cell phone service again, but we would be going in there without any service, most likely.
There would not be service there. There hasn't been service there. I mean, some companies do have service, but it's very, very light.
Here we have a traffic light that is working.
Yes, finally.
Interesting. So when Loíza was hit by Hurricane Maria, the town has experienced flooding before. This is much, much, much worse.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened there.
Well, the thing is, Irma kind of braced us, the hurricane before Maria, and Loisa was hit real bad by Irma, and it was, I mean, it was already in dire, you know, position. So when Maria came in, it just, you know, was the double whammy on the town of Loisa, and the whole town got flooded, and of course no power, no water, no running water, and everybody had to wait. Some people had to be rescued from their homes and taken to shelters, and it's one of the hardest hit.
You mentioned there was an elderly man there.
Hold on 1 second. I want to make sure everyone hears.
Can you guys all hear?
Because with this thing on, a lot of things don't block it. Just hit the others.
Since we're going live. There are people watching as we...
There you go. Now you can hold it, because I just want to make sure that they can hear you.
Yeah. So, you mentioned there was an elderly man there
Yes.
that had experienced significant flooding.
Yeah, we some of my trips, we visited an old man. His name is Lolo. Well, they called him Lolo. He's a World War II veteran who lives by himself, and his house gets surrounded by water whenever this kind of rains occur. And we met his daughter, who's a nurse, and she goes sees him every day. She can walk in. She puts some rubber boots because the water quality is not good. A lot of disease can be taken from this. And so we visited Lolo last week. It was his 92th birthday. So
His 92nd birthday?
92nd birthday. So we took him. We brought him a cake. We brought him some food, and we sang happy birthday to him.
And he lives there alone?
He lives there alone, yeah.
Wow.
In pitch darkness.
Jeez. We visited a man yesterday who is in his 80s, and his wife died 2 years ago. In Punta Santiago. So we went to this town called Punta Santiago. Was the first hit by the storm. And this elderly man, his wife died 2 years ago. He's been living in his home for 50 years. And
You on this camera?
half of the sorry, I was looking at the wrong camera. Half of the house lost its roof, and so when we posted some photos, we're going to post the videos later when we have good reception. But because half the roof went off, he's been kind of living outside. So his kitchen doesn't have a roof, not even a tarp, because there was no way to put a tarp up. So he's like living in this home now that's half covered, and it's also, you know, the heat is out. Nobody has power. It's, you know, 85, 90 degrees with 80% humidity. He's in his 80s. He's incredibly clean. You know, he's well dressed, put together. There was flooding that day. There's flooding right now, I'm sure. So he's, you know, cleaning the floor and bleaching everything, making sure there's no mold. And this is a man who lives alone in his 80s, a widower. It's incredible. And his neighbors, he said his neighbors are his family because they've all taken care of him.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful. Yeah. So tell, you know, you've been working with Chef Jose Andres.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the work that he's doing, and he's not in town right now, so, you know.
Yeah, he's out of town right now, but he started a movement and called Chefs from Puerto Rico, and he called all the chefs that he knew in Puerto Rico, which are the best chefs in Puerto Rico right now, and he just started cooking food out of a place in Santurce called La Placita. They started making a stew, a local stew, and sandwiches.
Which is really good, too.
It's really good, too, yeah.
Tried it yesterday.
Sancocho. Sancocho is one of his staples. So he started making that, then he started making paellas. Then he, like a week and a half after that, he moved the operation to a bigger place. It's a coliseum that's not being used for anything because there's no entertainment now, and no shows till prior January. And it became from a few sandwiches the first week to almost 3 million meals delivered.
3 million meals.
Almost 3 million meals.
Wow.
And the way he did it is he started getting volunteers to go and pick up the food that we cook and take it to places, and then he hired food trucks that had no jobs because they couldn't get their supplies to make the food truck work, and he gave them the opportunity to work for him, and that way he started pumping money into the economy, which is a good thing. We need it, and it was just incredible. I mean, and it just went from a small little thing to a huge, massive thing about feeding the people of Puerto Rico, which is what he wanted to do. Now he started an organization called World Central Kitchen, which is an NGO. When the hurricane hit Haiti, earthquake hit Haiti back in 2010, and he just started with that, and it's become a great foundation now.
That's great. I mean, just logistically, it's an incredible operation. We went there yesterday, and they're serving, I think yesterday was 20,000 hot meals, not counting the sandwiches. So, what they do is they have volunteers there who are cooking, the chefs, the volunteers making the sandwiches and cooking and doing operations, and then they send things out to the food trucks, and then they drive out to areas where they don't have, power, they don't have access to food, like Punta Santiago, which is where we went yesterday, and then people wait for their meals. And it was interesting because there was rain the day before we went to Punta Santiago. The roads, just like now, were flooded, and the food truck couldn't go there the day before. So we asked on the ground, and we'll post the story soon, just a little teaser. We asked, when's the last time you had a meal? And they said 48 hours. And Jose, who was with us, told us that, when he first got there, the first delivery he delivered to the town, people looked sick. They looked, their eyes had been sinking in, coloring was off, and, some people had been living off of whatever canned goods they had in their homes, or they hadn't had real, meals for quite a bit. And of course, water. Water was an issue as well, so there were water stations everywhere with filtered water. What are some of the worst things that you've witnessed so far?
Well, I've seen a lot of bad things, and especially the roads and the access to certain towns. And the conditions that some people are living and where they're living. And I've seen good things like people pulling together, helping each other out, all the neighbors helping each other out. And but the worst things I've seen is people hungry. People 60 days after the storm are still going hungry, and they're not getting the help from the federal government that I think they should be getting. I mean, FEMA has handed out millions of MREs.
What's that?
The ready-to-eat meals. I don't know if you've ever seen an MRE, but it's a packet, and I've seen like pieces on them on how to cook them, how to make them, and they're not easy. And the quality of the food is not what the local people like to eat.
No.
So what the chef tried to do is bring hot meals to people with food that we're accustomed to, and that are easy to. I mean, they don't have to do anything. All they have to do is come and eat it. They're prepared by the kitchens, and it's not the kind of packet that you have to make yourself, put water in it. You have to read the instructions. A lot of people don't speak English good enough to read the instructions in English.
Right.
So, I mean, that was one of his main concerns in the beginning.
I saw someone, you can stand him if you want. I'm just going to ask a question. I saw someone tweet out a photo of one of the packets, and it had junk food. It was like a Baby Ruth.
Yeah.
And like some chips.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to feed them for the day.
Well, no, I mean, that's part of the packet. It has the ready-to-eat meal, and those are like side things that they put in, like have some sweet and have some,
A kicker.
A kicker, yeah. But they come in with, I mean, it's got more stuff.
Can you, for those of us who've been watching from the mainland, there's been a lot of criticism about the government's response. That is getting ample criticism, and I think it was, it was amplified based on our president's reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But from your perspective, tell us how the federal government and the local government has been responding. I know there's different municipalities, so that makes it more complicated.
Yeah. Well, from my perspective, I mean, at the beginning, everything seems to be running fast, and they came out fast. They came down strong, and they started going into meetings and things, and they were away from the real situation that was out there. And now it's been 2 months, so that gives you right there the argument that they have been slow.
Yeah.
And my impression is that they think that things are well now, but they're not, and like they don't believe that things are as bad as they are. And like FEMA is scaling back a little bit. And
What?
that's what I've heard, that they're scaling back a little bit. And this place is not, I mean, it's a little better than it was after Maria hit day one, but it's still in very bad shape.
I mean, you have an island with no power. You have some places that don't have water or food, as you've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
You know, schools aren't entirely in operation. Elderly are fleeing because they can't, you know, survive.
Oh, the medical health here is, the facilities are not good, not big enough. And like for instance, 2 days ago, they had the big ship that the Marines used to. It's like a floating hospital, and they took it back because they said it wasn't needed anymore.
The Marines took their floating hospital
I don't know if it's Marines or it's a U.S. government's boat. It's like a floating hospital.
Yeah.
That they bring in for the officers. So it left 2 days ago. They said it wasn't needed anymore. And you know, as you can see, there's a lot of need for that.
Okay, so what is hard for us to understand is the disbursement. I mean, FEMA knows how to respond to natural disasters. It's supposed to know. And I understand that there's other storms that hit, you know, different cities, but they at least should know the effects. Mm-hmm. Why would you scale back when you know that this has been the largest natural disaster to ever hit Puerto Rico, and the island is literally without power?
Yep.
That's mind-blowing. How about the local politicians? Can you explain the dynamics? Because we saw that there's, you know, Carmen Cruz, who's the mayor of San Juan, has been fighting with Donald Trump, and that's become a big thing. And so, you know, most progressives have been very supportive of hers, but on the ground I hear different things, and it's very confusing to understand the local politics.
It's very confusing, and politics has always been a big thing in Puerto Rico. It's like a big pastime, you know.
Yeah.
And we have good mayors, we've had bad mayors. You know, some have been very proactive and very organized, and some haven't. Now, Carmen Yulín Cruz, I'm not a big fan of hers. She's very vocal, and she likes to be out on the news and do the tweets and the stuff. But you know, in reality, San Juan hasn't been taken care of properly.
How so?
Pickup of all the debris, cleanups. You know, what you expect after a hurricane is everything to be cleaned up so that the roads are accessible and that people can get through. She took a long time, and she kept saying that she was doing a good job, but the San Juan residents know she hasn't.
What about the governor?
The governor himself has been very good. I mean, he has had managed the biggest disaster in the history of the U.S. And he's a new governor. He's a young guy, working almost 24 hours a day. You know, getting a couple hours of sleep every day. So, as you can imagine, the level of stress and that he's been in, it's been tremendous. Trying to coordinate with FEMA, going to Washington to talk to the politicians over there, telling them about our situation, telling them about our needs. And it's been tough for him, you know. It's the worst time to be a governor.
Yeah.
But he's well perceived out there, in my opinion. Now people are starting to get a little, you know, tired of what's going on, and they think that things should get better sooner.
Right.
But it is what it is, you know.
Well, traffic's picking up. I don't want to distract you much more. I'll do a picture. We'll try to loop back, you know, when we have good coverage. I know a lot of you have been texting me and tweeting me and pushing stuff out saying that you really want to see coverage. We're trying to get our videos up and turned around quickly, but you know, the Wi-Fi is a major situation. Cell service is a major situation, and the strength of the Wi-Fi even more so. So
no cell service in Santiago.
No cell service
in Santiago yesterday when we were
anywhere. Anywhere outside of San Juan, there's no cell service. So you know, it's going to be tough. But you know, if you want to hear like some stories, sometimes I'll be tweeting if I have the opportunity to, or the ability to. I'll try to tweet. But if I'm outside of Santiago or outside of San Juan, I probably won't be, and we probably won't get the videos uploaded most likely until we're back on the mainland, just because the strength of the Wi-Fi is pretty weak.
Getting a flash flood.
We're getting a flash flood alert right now. Don't worry, it's not. It doesn't stay on the
It
screen.
doesn't? Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. That's it, guys. Thanks. See you soon.